Okay, what I wanted to do was just try to capture this renewal application that we're using for remediation companies. We use the One Beacon app just because it seems to be, at least from experience, the most user friendly application for remediation services. It's a fillable PDF. So pretty easy. But I did want to go over it. There seems to be some confusion on occasion about it. So I thought a little short video may help. Let me start with the renewal email. So a lot of the remediation companies won't see the application on their initial policy. That's because we fill it out for you. But at renewal, we need the revenue numbers for the most part, and that's information only you have. And then we also need you to verify that the services you're providing are correct. Any information contained in the application is correct. The legal name of the company, the doing business as name, the address, so on and so forth. So we do need to get you involved at renewal. But this is the renewal email. You'll notice that these policies are surplus policies. They're not admitted. So an admitted policy is going to be more like what you see advertised on TV, State Farm, Farmers, Allstate, Progressive. Those are admitted. These policies are surplus policies, which means they're not guaranteed by the state fund in the event of insolvency. Surplus policies, the surplus market is there for high risk exposure. So your standard carriers, like the ones I mentioned, Allstate, whatnot, they don't want the high risk stuff, or at least what presumes or appears to be high risk. So we have to go to the surplus market. So surplus policies don't automatically renew. We have to resubmit. Technically, they don't renew at all. We submit an application. It has to go back through full underwriting, and the carrier or carriers will provide quotes. We send those quotes to the insureds so they can review it, review coverages, review premiums, let us know if there's any questions, and then we can bind coverage from there. So technically it's not a renewal at all, even though we refer to it like that. But it's a slower process. It's important to point out. We tend to get people that wait to the last minute to get these applications, and then there's some frustration with regards to certificates of insurance because they have customers needing those so that they can start work or get paid. But we only can move as fast as our insureds move and or as fast as a carrier moves. So it's important to get these back to us, these applications back to us as soon as you can. We send these renewal emails out. We start 90 days out. And I believe there's 4 follow-ups in that 90-day period for renewal apps. And we are here to help. We don't mind, but we prefer that you try to schedule a call with us, just because we can build it into our time if we do that, versus being in the middle of helping another customer and then trying to stop and change gears. So it's just a little better service for you guys if we can schedule a call. But we're here to help. So the one thing you're going to notice about this renewal message is that we only need pages 1 through 7. So it's a 12-page app, and inevitably we'll get questions about pages 8 through 12. We don't need those. We're just doing pages 1 through 7. And then there's some renewal tips on here, but we're going to go over a lot of this on the app. I just wanted to point this email out. I feel like it gets missed a lot, so I just wanted to show it here. All right, let's go to the app. Okay, so we're back to the app here. So this is how you're going to see the app when I send it to you. And we're just going to kind of run through this thing. I won't be super lengthy. but do feel like this could help you. So if it's crossed out, we don't need it. So, well, let me back up. So the loss runs we will take care of. So we'll get those for your behalf. We do need financial statements. So the carrier asks for these to verify revenue because the premium is based on revenue because revenue equals exposure. So you just think about it. The more revenue you have out there, the more jobs you're doing, the more employees, the more work, the more exposure. So revenue equals exposure. So the carrier wants us to use financial statements to verify revenue. The financial statements, they do not have to be audited. So if you've got, I know there's a lot of people using accountants, and that's fine. But if you have an in-house accounting software like QuickBooks, these are very easy to print. You just go to the reports tab, go to the financials, drop down, and then you just pick profit and loss statement, summary, past 12 months. And that's super easy. They like a balance sheet as well. The balance sheet is in the reports tab. Go down to the accountant drop down selection. You can pick balance sheet, and that's just going to be a specific day. So if you print the PL statement from June 2025 to June 2024, then you're just going to want to pick a balance statement for that same date in June. That way everything lines up nice and neat. Statement qualifications or resumes. So this we typically get when you start up. So that's why we ask you for that. The carriers, they want to see that new businesses specifically have got experience in this industry. So think about the carrier as your partner. It's your business partner. But the carrier's only job is to take on the risk. So that's really a pretty good deal. But they want to know who they're going into partnership with, and what kind of experience they have. So that's what that's about. And then addendum C, we don't need to worry about that. That's for a different type business. So here, section 1, this is all going to be pre-filled for you guys, but I did want to point out, make sure this is right. This is your legal entity name, the name associated with your tax ID number. That's very important that that's correct. Then you have a doing business as name, and you can have more than one. It can be ABC Services, it can be ABC Hoarding, it can be ABC Fire, it can be whatever. So that's a great place to put your doing business as names, and that's just also referred to as a fictitious name, but that's also just to help the carrier if a claim opens up and it's open in this fictitious name. We need to be able to provide proof that it's you, that it is in fact this legal entity right here. So that's why that's important. And then of course your street address, city, state, zip, all that's pretty standard. Contact name, who do you want to be the contact title. Typically most of these companies are LLCs, so I'll usually just put member right there, but you're welcome to put president, vice president, whatever you'd like. The telephone number that you want on file, website, and year established. And again, a lot of this is already filled out, but you do need to verify it, make sure it's like you want it. Here's where you pick your entity type. LLC is the popular option, but we do see some corporations out there from time to time. These questions here, obviously, feel free to read through these. Again, we will kind of go in and pre-answer them, but we do expect you to read it and verify this information is correct. Most of these are all going to be no, but they are there for your review. Type of personnel, I wouldn't get lost in the weeds on this. You might just, if there's 2 owners and you've got 2 employees, that's good enough. I'm not worried about drivers. If you have volunteers, that's probably good to put down there just because that can affect coverage sometimes. If you have a hygienist on file, or on payroll, you can put one there. That's great. But I wouldn't get too lost in the weeds on this. But it is a good spot just to kind of, designate your personnel. The coverages requested. So we'll fill this out for you just because we have all this information in file, but we're doing packaged policies that include your general liability, your pollution liability, and your professional liability. That's the primary. That's your primary policy. We call it the CGLPL, Commercial General Liability with Pollution. And then we've got your follow form excess. Excess is also referred to as an umbrella. It's the same thing. For these purposes, it's the same thing. And then your business auto. Not everybody will have business auto with us, but we do have a pretty large market for business auto. We'll put the effective dates, the limits. Hey, and sometimes these limits, we'll have a location that may have a 2 million, 4 million on the GL, and that those limits are actually contained in our management software that does not automatically update this app. So sometimes we'll forget to increase the limits on the app, and I apologize for that. You're more than welcome to call us out on that. We'll go in and change it, or you can change it. When you open the app, just change it. It's 1 million per occurrence, 2 million aggregate, all the way across the board, except for your professional. This is claims made coverage. So it's a 1 mil, 2 mil, but it's claims made, which means it has a retroactive date. The retroactive date is very important. It needs to coincide with the date your first policy was written. So the retroactive date is going to make this claims made coverage go back to this date. If you have a lapse in coverage, you lose your retroactive date and it starts over again, which means your claims made coverage will only go back to the new retroactive date. So if you started a business in 2020 and you're renewing 2025, this would look like this. Your claims made coverage would go back to 2020. If you let that policy, that retro date lapse, then your retro date resets. Let's just say 2024. So you lose 4 years of coverage or 3 years of coverage. So that's very important that the retroactive date that you want to hang on to that for your claims made coverage. Here's your expiring coverages. So a lot of this is kind of just coincides together. Carriers will vary depending on what kind of package you go with, how broad you want your package to be. There's multiple carriers that we deal with. We actually have access to probably every carrier participating in the remediation field of exposure. So some are more expensive than others. Some have broader packages off the shelf. Just various reasons why we pick certain carriers over others, or even the insureds pick certain carriers over the others. Here's another little non-renewal question to look at. So this one here confuses people. So states or foreign countries where operations are conducted. So we're not worried about foreign countries. We cross that out. So we need states where operations are conducted. So if you're working in a single state, you'll just want to list it here. If you're working in more than one state, then you want to list those here. That's just so we know. So the carrier wants to know where you're operating. Your policies are not necessarily territory specific, although some carriers do exclude certain states. So you need to list your states here so everybody knows what you're doing, where you're doing it at. Revenue by classification. So I wouldn't get lost in the weeds on this one either. You know what I mean? You don't have to go through all your customers and do math and you don't have to get lost on this one. Just kind of summarize it. Most everybody in remediation seems to live in the single family, multifamily world. Although we do see some commercial retail. Occasionally we'll see some industrial cleaning, some nursing homes. So, if you have a contract with a nursing home and you clean it twice a year, you might put 1% right there. So, again, don't get just lost in the weeds, but do try to give us a breakdown of where you're spending your time. List of the 3 largest projects performed in the past year. Again, this is giving the carrier an idea of what kind of work you're doing and what kind of scope you're doing it on. This is for your protection. This is for you guys. This is so that you can make sure the services that you're providing are covered by your policy. If we have you in an environmental package, and this comes back that you're doing electrical on new builds, well, we need to know that, because that's not necessarily covered by your carrier policy. So it's important. Just put them in here. You don't have to get super detailed. If you don't want to put your client's specific name, use their initials or use their address. And then just put, it might be hoarding, it might be undiscovered death, it might be busted water line, whatever. Just kind of give us that so the carrier knows what kind of jobs you're doing. On the vehicles, so usually we're in the light to medium truck range. Light truck's going to be, your Chevrolet 1500, Ford F-150 type truck. Your medium truck are going to be your 2500s. Heavies, that's getting into dump trucks and your tractor trailers. So we don't have those. Medium truck, even your NPR, your Isuzu NPRs, box trucks, those are all going to be medium. Here's your trailers. Cargo hauled, cleaning supplies, hand tools. Are you hauling off hoarding debris? Are you doing red bag pickup? This is just where you're going to want to list that stuff. What kind of radius are we doing? Are you going over 200 miles? Or, this is going to be local, intermediate, long distance. So, again, not super detail here, but we do just kind of want to know how far you're venturing out of your base territory to perform these services. Here's the revenue pages. So this tends to be another spot, sticking spot for people. So if you've been in business for 3 years, that's going to be your first year revenue. Let's just say you did $150,000 your first year, and maybe you did $250 the second year, and then you're thinking you're going to double this year because you signed a contract with a large distribution center that wants their warehouses cleaned, or maybe it's an office center, they want their offices cleaned once a month, once a quarter. It's a big project. Maybe it's a municipality. We see a lot of these contracts with these cities for homeless encampment cleanup. So maybe you've got a big contract plan. Maybe you don't. Maybe you think you're going to be kind of flat. You go 300,000. I wouldn't over guess this number, because again, this is going to affect your premium. So I would try to be realistic. I mean, I hope that you all do multiple $1 million in revenue. But let's not guess it, because that's going to affect your premium. So right here, you want to be realistic, but again, you do want to take into account any contracts that might be coming up or that you have recently signed. So here, your projected gross receipts. So your projected gross receipt, we're splitting up 300,000, right? Projected gross receipts is 300,000. How are we going to make that 300,000, right? Let's say we're in a high crime area and the police, the local police call you routinely. So you're going to do $100,000 on crime scene cleanup. Maybe it's vehicle accidents, homicides, fentanyl decontamination, or anything can be considered on that crime scene cleanup. And are you doing this in-house? So subcontracted work, subcontractor is a company, an outside company you're hiring to do work on your behalf. So if the police station calls you and says, hey, we have a car impounded that we need it. If there's a homicide in the car, we need it cleaned. if you send your guy out there, whether he's W-2 or 1099, those are both labor. That's employee in the eyes of the state. If you call another company to go do that job for you, that's a subcontractor. So you would put that job is subcontracted out. Most of the time, everybody's doing the work in-house. It just might vary how they pay that employee. The most common method is W-2 or 1099. Either way, those are both employees, not subcontractors. So you've got crime scene cleanup right there. Emergency response, this is such a broad category. I mean, a lot of what you guys doing are emergency response. Undiscovered death, that's emergency response. Let's put in 75,000 for emergency response. Let's do 15,000. Let's do 25,000 for fentanyl. So we've got 200,000 that we've of this 300,000 that we've accounted for. So where's the other 100,000 go? Maybe we're doing fire and water. Maybe we're doing a little bit of that. Maybe we've got some septic tanks. So septic tank cleaning could also be sewer backup, right? Maybe you live in a low area, lots of water, groundwater, and septic tanks are backing up all over the place. So maybe we can throw a little money in there. So we need to spend $50,000 more dollars. Let's see. Maybe you've got some contracts. You're just strictly doing fogging. You're doing fogging once a quarter. There's another 10,000. And then a hot one too is hoarding. So maybe we'll do 40,000 there, and that gives us our 300,000. So you see how you want to just take the revenue and project how you think you're going to earn the 300,000. What jobs are you seeing that's going to lead to the $300,000, and then give the carrier an idea of how you're going to earn that money. Again, this is for your protection. This is to make sure that the jobs you're doing, the carrier is okay with and willing to cover. It's very important. Subcontracted work, again, if you're just using W-2 or 1099 employees, that's not a subcontractor. If you're hiring somebody to come do, if you get a call for septic tank cleaning or sewer backup, and you call a sewer company to come out and do the work for you, meaning you bill the work and then pay the sewer company, that's a subcontractor. So you would want to put 100% subcontracted right there. And also on a side note, if you are using subcontractors, they do need to carry their own insurance. And we'll get to that here in just a minute, but I feel like it's worth mentioning right here. So this one, I kind of went more to the trauma side, but for the fire and water guys, same thing. Maybe maybe the fire and water restoration services, maybe this is going to be kind of more the cleaning side of it. I'm drying, I'm cleaning furniture, I'm drying out floors, carpet, I've got fans set up, I've scrubbed some walls, maybe I cut some sheetrock out, pull some insulation out. That's going to be your fire and water, restoration type stuff. If you're doing the build back work, that's down here. So there's your carpentry or framing. And that can be trim work. It can be maybe I put a door in, maybe I had to take some cabinets off and replace them. So demolition of interior, I mean that, you could put some sheetrock work there if you wanted to, some tearing out. I would probably just put it up under here, under the fire and water. But you can see where this is a good spot to list any services that you're doing, for your customer, electrical. So this is where we see most of the subcontracted work. And we really see a lot of the fire and water people going in and doing remodeling work and subbing it all out, which if you're getting into remodeling and that's the majority of your work, then an environmental package might not be the best policy for you. So again, that's kind of why we ask these questions, so we can see what it is you're actually doing. A general contractor, that's usually a GC doesn't do anything. It's a company. It can be, ABC, home services, and they get a job, and all of it is subcontracted out to somebody else. They don't have any in-house personnel other than maybe, clerical or a superintendent or whatnot. That's going to be more of your GC type setup. And then there's more options. Janitorial service. This is a good one. I mean, if you're doing just, you're going in, you're cleaning, just a glorified cleaning, put that under janitorial. That way we can distinguish between janitorial service versus, any kind of high risk, trauma, virus, bacteria, feces type cleanup work. And then also you can change these fields. Maybe you don't do any hoarding and you want to put something else right here that you want to spell out a little better. That's a great place to do it. You can change that. You can change this one. These are all, you can add to it. You can even type out beside it if you want to. If you wanted to put something out here to kind of define a little bit better what it is you're doing, you're welcome to do that. Again, this application's for you to let the carrier know how you're earning your money, what kind of jobs you're doing, and make sure we're all on the same page. Safety and quality control practices. So this stuff is all part of your franchise disclosure documents. If you're a franchise, if you're an independent, then you should have all this in place. If you do not, then you need to change these to no. We need to know that. If you're a franchised location and you don't know if you have these, you need to review your handbook that you got when you started your franchise, because this information is contained inside of that. So here we're back to subcontractors again. Again, subcontractors are not 1099 employees. That if you have an employee that you're using on a regular basis, that person comes to you every day, you set their hours, you give them the job to go do, and you just pay them and then issue a 1099 at the end of the year, that's an employee. A subcontractor is a company you're hiring to do work on your behalf. The fire and water guys, I see it a lot. You'll go in, you'll have to pull up some flooring, cut some sheetrock, and then you'll hire a company to come in to replace a floor, do some sheetrock work, or painting. Painting's a big one. Those are subcontractors. That subcontractor needs to carry their own insurance, and they need to carry limits equal or greater than yours. So they need to carry general liability at $1 million. They need to carry pollution at $1 million, and professional at $1 million. Now there could be some lenience here depending on what that contractor is doing for you, but as part of your standing operating procedures, this is a great place to be. I know this can be tough to get a painting contractor might not have pollution and professional, but you really need to find contractors that carry these type limits and coverages. It protects you in the event of a claim. And that contractor needs to add your business, your legal entity, as additional insured on their policies and provide you with a certificate of insurance indicating such. And you need to maintain that certificate of insurance in your files indefinitely. So you need to be an additional insured, primary non-contributory with a waiver and subrogation. The same things you're asking us to do for you, you need to ask of them. If they can't do that, if they don't have insurance, they can't add you as an AI, you really don't need to be using that subcontractor. And a good way to think about this is the carrier on your policy, they're not collecting premium to cover a bunch of uninsured subcontractors. That's not the goal here. The goal here is to cover you and your risk. The subcontractor should cover them and their risk. If you both have the proper limits, the proper coverage, and there's a large loss claim, then your policies can work in conjunction and everything's not going to fall on your shoulders. So this is very big And we're seeing a lot of this here lately. And I know a lot of you have probably seen our emails come through looking for a copy of your standard subcontractor agreement. We even have a couple of samples that have been approved by the carriers that we can provide. You also need to know that if you don't follow these rules, some of the carriers will exclude subcontractor coverage altogether. They won't cover it at all. And then other carriers will add a higher deductible, say $10,000 or $20,000 deductible for claims related to subcontractors. So this is important, that you make this part of your standard operating procedure. And if you have additional questions about this, you're welcome to reach out to us. Claims history, we try to answer all these as well. Occasionally we'll say no and there's a yes. It's just it's not intentional. But if you know you have a claim out there, then you can just change this to yes. That's why we like for you guys to review these renewal apps to make sure it's just a system of checks and balances. And that's what all these last questions are really kind of indicating to our claims. Here's your fraud warning. And then page 7 is a signature page. So you just want a date, sign, print, title, member. Again, you can put member right there if you want to. So that's it. The rest of this we don't need. We're just doing pages 1 through 7. It's pretty straightforward. So when you get the app, the application here, it's best if you'll open it and save it to your desktop or laptop, fill it out, and then save it again. And that will get us the information that we need. So I hope that helps.